Prologue: my daughter came home in tears. She told me my CEO wife's executive assistant, in front of the entire company, tried to force her to kneel and apologize. All because she'd accidentally spilled his coffee. I pulled my daughter close and dialed a number I hadn't willingly called in 3 years. "So, your lapdog tells me you run this city?" I said, my voice dangerously calm. "Then today, I'm tearing your whole world down." Chapter 1: Daddy, I'm home. I was humming to myself, sliding the last of the pan-seared scallops onto a bed of saffron risotto, when I heard my daughter's weak, trembling voice. Something was wrong. Normally, Lily would have already shot into the kitchen like a little cannonball, hugging my leg and shouting, "Daddy, it smells so good." I untied my apron and hurried to the foyer. One look was all it took. A white-hot rage shot through me. My 5-year-old daughter, Lily, stood whimpering by the door. The little sundress I'd helped her pick out this morning was covered in dark brown stains, as if someone had thrown something on her. Her small, pale face was streaked with tears, her big eyes red and puffy. Her tiny body was racked with shudders. She'd clearly just been through a massive crying spell. "Lily, what is it?" "Honey, who hurt you?" I dropped to one knee, pulling her into my arms, my own voice shaking. A gut-wrenching sob escaped her, and she broke down completely, wailing into my shoulder. "Daddy Hick, it was Mommy's Mr. Peterson. He was so mean." Between ragged breaths, she told me the whole story. Her preschool had let out early, so the driver, as usual, had dropped her off at her mother's company, Sterling Corporation. Lily wanted to surprise her mom, Victoria, so she'd run up to the executive floor by herself. Right outside the CEO's office, she'd accidentally bumped into Victoria's executive assistant, Kevin Peterson. The ridiculously expensive Kopi Luwak coffee in his hand had sloshed all over him. Lily was terrified and immediately started apologizing over and over. But Kevin, instead of comforting a scared child, had started screaming at her right there in the hallway, in front of dozens of employees. He'd called her a spoiled brat with no manners. He'd yelled about how she'd ruined his $1,000 custom suit. And then he had grabbed Lily's arm and tried to force her to get on her knees to apologize in front of everyone. Petrified, Lily cried and struggled, refusing to kneel. That only made Kevin angrier, his insults growing crueler, drawing a crowd of onlookers from the entire floor. The whole humiliating spectacle only ended when Victoria finally came out of a meeting. And Victoria, my loving wife, had simply frowned, told another assistant to take Lily home, and hadn't bothered to ask a single question. Listening to my daughter's choked account, I held her tighter, the veins standing out on my arms. My heart felt like it was being crushed by an invisible hand, the pain so sharp I could barely breathe. I cupped Lily's face, gently wiping away her tears with my thumb. My voice, when I spoke, was as cold as an Arctic chill. "Lily, you tell Daddy. You didn't do anything wrong, did you?" She nodded furiously, sobbing. I really didn't mean to. I said I was sorry, but he wanted me to get on my knees. "Okay," I said, just one word, but it landed with the weight of a death sentence. I carried my daughter to the couch, put on her favorite cartoon, and got her a cupcake from the fridge to calm her down. Once I saw her tears had stopped, and she was absorbed in the show, I walked into my home office and shut the door. From a locked drawer, I took out a sleek, featureless black phone, a cipher phone I hadn't used in years. Its contact list held only a single number. I dialed Victoria. For 3 years, aside from a few mandatory family holidays, we'd been strangers living in the same house. This was the first time I had initiated a call. It rang for a long time before she picked up. Her voice, as always, was cold and impatient. "Ethan, what is it?" "I'm in the middle of a board meeting." "Make it quick." I ignored her tone. My voice was flat, but edged with ice. "Is your meeting important?" My question seemed to throw her off. She scoffed. "A multi-billion-dollar merger. Is it important?" "A stay-at-home dad like you wouldn't understand." A soft, mirthless laugh escaped my lips. "I hear from your assistant that you think you run this city." Victoria paused. "What are you talking about?" I didn't answer, continuing as if she hadn't spoken, each word ground out from between my teeth. "Then today I'm going to tear your whole world down." I hung up, giving her no chance to reply. Immediately, I dialed the only other number in the cipher phone. The call was answered on the first ring. "Sir," a respectful, steady male voice on the other end. "Hanson," I said calmly. Mobilize everything. I want the stock price of Sterling Corporation to drop 30% by market close. And one more thing. I want a complete background check on Victoria Sterling's executive assistant, Kevin Peterson. Everything. I want to know what his great-grandfather had for breakfast. Hanson didn't hesitate or ask a single question. Yes, sir. I ended the call and walked out of the office. Seeing my daughter on the couch, still engrossed in her cartoon, the ice in my eyes melted into pure, undiluted love. Victoria, did you really think I've been living off you for the past 3 years? You were wrong. I was just tired. I just wanted a few quiet years to watch my daughter grow up. But you, all of you, you should never, ever have hurt my little girl. There are some people in this world you just can't afford to cross. Chapter 2 at 2:30 p.m., with an hour and a half until the closing bell, an unprecedented earthquake ripped through Viridia City's financial district. The epicenter, the seemingly untouchable Sterling Corporation. Ms. Sterling, we have a problem. The stock is in a free fall. Ma'am, there's an unidentified institutional investor shorting us with massive capital. Victoria, they've blown past all our countermeasures. The scale of their assets, it's immeasurable. In the penthouse office of Sterling Tower, Victoria's face was a mask of cold fury. She stared at the green line on her monitor, which was plummeting so fast it was nearly vertical. For the first time, panic broke through her icy composure. In just 10 minutes, Sterling Corporation had lost $5 billion in market value, and the sell-off was accelerating. This wasn't market fluctuation. This was a calculated, brutally precise financial assassination. Who? Sterling Corp was an institution in Viridia City. She had made enemies, for sure. You don't get to the top without breaking a few things. But who had this kind of power? Who could mobilize this level of capital without a single trace? Find them. I want every analyst we have digging. I want to know where this money is coming from. Victoria's voice was strained, cracking with a mix of rage and fear. Her assistant, Kevin Peterson, was sweating profusely, though he still managed to suck up. Don't worry, Miss Sterling. It's got to be our rivals. They're just jealous we landed the Southbridge development project. A bunch of second-rate hacks. Once we find out who it is, we'll make them pay. He poured her a glass of water with a trembling hand. Victoria waved him away, too consumed by chaos to listen to his bootlicking. Her mind raced, sifting through every potential adversary, but no one fit. The attack was too big, too overwhelming. It was like a prehistoric beast had simply stepped on the fortress she'd spent her life building and crushed it. Just then, her personal cell phone rang. The screen read, Ethan. Victoria's brow furrowed even deeper. Of all the times for that useless man to bother her. She answered with a snarl. What do you want now? Can't you see I'm busy? The sky is falling. Ethan's voice came through, terrifyingly calm. Yes, it is, isn't it? Victoria's heart stopped. An absurd, impossible thought flickered in her mind. No, it couldn't be. He was a stay-at-home dad. What did he know about finance besides how to use her credit card? Don't you dare get sarcastic with me, Ethan. I don't have time for your games. What do you even do besides cook? If you need money, just ask, but don't bother me while I'm trying to save my company. She was about to hang up. Victoria, I said, my voice sharp and cold. Remember this. We're just getting started. The line went dead. Victoria stood frozen, the phone slick with sweat in her palm. For the first time in her life, she began to doubt her own judgment. Meanwhile, I was in the backyard with Lily, building a sandcastle. The sun was warm, a gentle breeze rustling the leaves. The financial storm that was about to upend Viridia City's entire corporate landscape felt a million miles away. Hanson's call came in at precisely 4 p.m. Sir, it's done. As of market close, Sterling Corporation is down 31%. Market cap has fallen by $32 billion. Also, the complete file on Kevin Peterson has been sent to your secure email. Good, I replied, my tone as casual as if he'd just given me the weather report. What are your next orders, sir? I looked over at my daughter, happily decorating our castle with seashells. A cold smile touched my lips. Contact every single one of Sterling Corporation's partners and suppliers. Convince them to terminate their contracts. All of them. Tonight. I want Victoria Sterling to wake up tomorrow as a general with no army. Yes, sir. I pocketed the phone. Lily ran up to me, proudly pointing at her creation. Daddy, look. It's our castle. I smiled, ruffling her hair. It's the most beautiful castle in the world. Come on, I'll take you out for a special dinner to celebrate. As for Victoria and her precious company, they were just the opening fireworks for my daughter's coronation. Chapter 3. Night fell, but sleep was a luxury Victoria couldn't afford. She sat alone in her vast, silent office, surrounded by scattered files and reports. All afternoon, she had called in every favor, leveraged every connection, and still, she couldn't even identify her attacker. Sterling Corporation was like a ship being dragged under by a kraken. No matter how much it struggled, it was doomed. $32 billion. Nearly a third of her family's entire net worth. Gone. Vaporized in a matter of hours. The board members had been calling nonstop. The family patriarchs had been screaming at her, demanding answers. Victoria felt like a prisoner on death row, waiting for the final verdict to be delivered at sunrise. She rubbed her temples, exhausted. Against her will, her thoughts returned to Ethan's phone call. The sky is falling, isn't it? We're just getting started. His words echoed in her mind like a curse. Could it really be him? The thought surfaced again, and again she crushed it. She had to be losing her mind. She knew who Ethan was. 3 years ago, her dying grandfather had forced her to marry this nobody, this orphan who came from nowhere. For 3 years, he had been the perfect, docile house husband. His entire world revolved around the kitchen and their daughter. He never asked about her work, never showed any interest in the family fortune. He was a shadow, an accessory living under the Sterling name. Victoria had always looked down on him, despised him even. A real man had ambition. A real man built empires. In her eyes, Ethan was a complete and utter failure. A spineless, kept man. How could a man like that possibly have the power to bring Sterling Corporation to its knees? It had to be a coincidence. Yes, that was it. He just happened to call at that exact moment. She tried to reassure herself, but a dark cloud of dread settled over her, one she couldn't shake. She picked up her phone, her thumb hovering over his contact. After a long moment, she put it back down. She couldn't bring herself to make that call, to ask for confirmation, or worse, for help, from the man she considered a worthless freeloader. Her pride wouldn't allow it. Ring, ring. The sharp trill of her desk phone made her jump. Who would be calling this late? She picked it up. It was the head of her legal department, and he sounded like he was about to cry. Ms. Sterling, it's a catastrophe. Our biggest partner, Global Commerce, Mr. Davies, just sent a press release. He's unilaterally terminating all of our contracts. What? Victoria shot out of her chair. The Global Commerce deal represented nearly half of Sterling's entire overseas operation. There's more. Apex Construction, Innovate Tech, Summit Logistics. In the last 30 minutes, our top 10 strategic partners have all sent termination notices from their lawyers. They're willing to pay the breach of contract penalties just to get away from us. Boom. It felt like a bomb had gone off inside her head, leaving nothing but white noise. If the stock market crash was a mortal wound, this was pulling the rug out from under her. These were partners who were deeply intertwined with Sterling, some for over a decade. What force on earth could be powerful enough to make all of them, at the exact same time, choose to suffer massive financial losses just to sever ties with her? Fear, a primal, overwhelming fear she had never known, consumed her. She finally understood. She wasn't up against a business rival. She was facing an invisible, omnipotent hand. A hand that was now slowly, deliberately, crushing everything she had ever built. She collapsed back in her chair, her mind a complete blank, save for a single name. Ethan. Chapter 4. The next morning, the entire financial world was in an uproar. Sterling Corp blindsided by mystery attack. Partners flee in mass exodus. 100-year dynasty on the brink of collapse. Who is the puppet master with the power to reshape the city's economy? Victoria was woken by a relentless barrage of calls from the family elders. She had passed out at her desk, and her head was pounding. On the phone, her uncles, who had always been so kind and supportive, were now screaming, excoriating her for her failure. Victoria couldn't say a word in her own defense. She knew the Sterling family was finished. At least, the Sterling Corporation she had inherited was. After the last call, she moved like a zombie, driving back to the house she had so rarely visited. For 3 years, She had avoided coming home whenever possible. She couldn't stand the sight of Ethan's face, a placid, infuriating picture of domestic contentment. But today, she felt a desperate, clawing need to see him. She had to ask him face to face. Was this all his doing? The front door was unlocked. She stepped inside and was hit by the familiar, comforting smell of breakfast cooking. Ethan was in the open-plan kitchen, wearing an apron, making pancakes for Lily. The morning light streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a warm glow around him. His profile was sharp and focused, his expression gentle. The scene was so painfully domestic, so peaceful, it felt like a painting. If she hadn't just lived through a 24-hour nightmare, Victoria might have mistaken it for any other ordinary morning. Lily was already at the breakfast bar. When she saw her mother, her little mouth formed a pout, and she buried her face in her father's side, clearly still upset about what had happened. I patted my daughter's back reassuringly. Without turning around, as if I had eyes in the back of my head, I spoke. "You're home." My tone was as casual as if I were commenting on the weather. Victoria froze. The accusations, the rage, the hysterical questions she had rehearsed all the way home, they all died on her lips. The man in front of her was the same Ethan she knew, wearing a $10 t-shirt and a cartoon apron, smelling of bacon and coffee. But there was an aura of profound calm about him that sent a shiver down her spine. It was as if the end of the world was a minor inconvenience, a gentle breeze on a summer day. "Was it you?" Victoria finally found her voice. It was raw and hoarse, laced with a tremor she couldn't control. I placed a small piece of pancake into my daughter's mouth before slowly turning to face her. The woman before me, who had always projected an image of an untouchable ice queen, was a wreck. Her face was pale, with dark circles under her eyes. Her expensive designer suit was wrinkled, her hair a mess. She looked utterly defeated. I didn't answer her question. Instead, I picked up a document from the counter and tossed it in front of her. In bold, black letters, the title stared up at her. "Divorce agreement, sign it," I said, my voice devoid of any emotion. "I don't want a single penny. All I want is full custody of Lily." Victoria's pupils contracted. She stared at the papers, then back at me, as if seeing me for the first time. "Why?" she asked, her voice cracking. "Why do you think?" I gave a bitter, mocking smile. A mother who can't be bothered to defend her own child. A CEO who lets her dog try to humiliate a 5-year-old girl. You, Victoria, don't deserve to be her mother. She opened her mouth to argue, but no words came out. She knew I was right. Her handling of the situation had been cold, dismissive. At the time, her mind had been on her meeting. She'd seen it as a trivial spat, Kevin overreacting, Lily being difficult. She had never considered the deep, lasting pain it would cause her daughter. And she had never imagined it would ignite the fury of a man she had so completely underestimated. "I won't sign it." Victoria's voice suddenly became shrill. "Ethan, who the hell are you? What gave you the right to take Lily from me?" "The right." I laughed. I walked toward her, standing over her. At 6'1", I towered over her, my presence suddenly oppressive. "Victoria, have you still not figured it out? Your precious Sterling Corporation? In my world, it's not even a toy. The power, the status, the wealth you're so proud of? I can take it all away whenever I want. The only reason I've stayed in this house for 3 years is because Lily is happy here, and I couldn't be bothered to make a change. So I'm going to give you one chance. Right now, you and your assistant, Kevin, you will go and get on your knees and apologize to my daughter. Or by the end of the day, the name Sterling will be wiped from the corporate registry of this city. Permanently." Every word was a sledgehammer, smashing into Victoria's carefully constructed world. She stumbled backward, her face a canvas of pure disbelief. She stared at me, the man she had scorned for 3 years, and for the first time, she felt a fear that chilled her to the bone. Chapter 5. In the end, Victoria gave in. Not that she ever had a choice. At 10 a.m., the plaza in front of Sterling Tower was a media circus. Reporters from every major news outlet were swarming the entrance, desperate to understand the secret behind the overnight collapse of a corporate empire. Just then, a convoy of black Rolls-Royces pulled up to the curb. The man who stepped out of the lead car wasn't a Sterling. It was Hanson, dressed in a severe black suit, his face grim and imposing. He was flanked by 2 rows of security personnel who moved with disciplined precision, their presence alone silencing the chaotic crowd. The reporters exchanged confused glances. Who was this? Hansen ignored them all, walking directly to the building's main entrance. He then turned, faced the empty air, and bowed deeply. Sir, everything is ready. He stepped aside, holding a hand out towards the centermost vehicle, a Rolls-Royce Phantom. Every camera, every eye, swiveled to follow his gesture. The door opened. I stepped out, holding Lily in my arms. I was in jeans and a polo shirt, a stark contrast to the sea of suits around me. Lily was still a little scared, her arms wrapped tightly around my neck, her face buried in my shoulder. I patted her back gently, whispering, "It's okay, sweetie. Daddy's here." The world erupted in a blinding flash of cameras. Oh my God, isn't that Victoria Sterling's stay-at-home husband? What's he doing here? And in a Rolls-Royce? Who was that guy who bowed to him? He looks important, but he treated him like royalty. A wave of shocked murmurs rippled through the crowd. I ignored it all. Cradling my daughter, I walked, step by step, into the lobby of Sterling Tower. Hansen and his team formed a protective wedge in front of us, ensuring no one could get within 10 feet. Inside, every executive of Sterling Corporation, including the patriarchs of the Sterling family, stood in 2 silent, grim-faced lines. They all stared at the floor, not daring to breathe. Victoria stood at the front, her face as white as a sheet. And next to her, on his knees, was a man trembling uncontrollably. Kevin Peterson. Gone was yesterday's arrogance. He was shaking so violently he looked like he might fall apart, his head bowed, so low his forehead was nearly touching the marble. I stopped right in front of him. I didn't look at him. My attention was on my daughter. "Lily, honey, look. The man who was mean to you is right here, on his knees." Lily peeked over my shoulder, caught a glimpse of Kevin, and quickly hid her face again. I could feel her small body still trembling. A fresh stab of pain went through my heart. I lifted my eyes, my gaze a blade of ice aimed at Kevin. "Look at me." He flinched, then shakily raised his head. His face was a mess of terror and regret. "You called my daughter a spoiled brat? You tried to force my daughter to kneel before you?" With every question, my voice grew colder. With every word, the color drained further from his face. "Oh, I was wrong. Mr. Cole, I was so wrong," he stammered, beginning to knock his head against the floor in a desperate, pathetic kowtow. Thump, thump, thump. The sickening sound of his forehead hitting the polished stone echoed in the dead-silent lobby. "Apologize," I commanded. "I am sorry. Miss Lily, I'm so sorry. I was blind. I was garbage. I'm less than human. I'm begging you, please forgive me." Kevin wailed, starting to slap himself across the face while continuing to bow. The entire lobby, executives and reporters alike, watched, stunned into silence. They had never witnessed such a dramatic, brutal reversal of fortune. Yesterday's smug, powerful executive assistant was now a groveling dog, begging a small child for mercy. And the man he was begging in front of was widely known as Viridia City's most useless husband. The world had gone insane. Victoria stood nearby, biting her lip so hard she might draw blood, her nails digging into her palms. She felt as if her own face were being ground into the floor. This was a humiliation worse than death. But she didn't dare move. She didn't dare speak. She knew that if she uttered a single word of protest, the entire Sterling legacy would be annihilated in an instant. The man she had shared a bed with for 3 years, the man she had never once truly seen, possessed a power beyond her wildest comprehension. I watched Kevin bloody his own face without a flicker of pity. Then I turned my gaze to Victoria. "And you, as her mother, don't you have something to say?" Victoria's body jolted as if struck by lightning. She looked up, meeting my cold stare. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Apologized to her own daughter? In front of everyone? In that moment, her pride, her ego, everything that defined her was being systematically crushed under my heel. Chapter 6 time seemed to freeze. Every person in that lobby had their eyes fixed on Victoria, waiting. The once mighty ice queen of the corporate world looked like a lost, helpless child, trapped and exposed. Her face flushed from white to red, then back to a sickly pale, her eyes a storm of conflict humiliation, and a defiant flicker of resentment. I didn't rush her. I just watched, giving her the time she needed to personally shatter her own ridiculous pride. 1 second, 2, 3. Each tick of the clock was an eternity for her. Finally, as if every bone in her body had dissolved, she moved. Slowly, painfully, she bent her proud knees. With a soft thud, the CEO of Sterling Corporation, the heir to the Sterling dynasty, knelt on the floor. She knelt before me and our daughter. A collective, silent gasp went through the room. The silence was so profound you could hear a pin drop. Everyone was utterly thunderstruck. This wasn't just a corporate takedown anymore. It was the complete and total demolition of a person's dignity. Lily. Victoria's voice was a choked, barely audible whisper. I'm so sorry. Mommy was wrong. Mommy didn't protect you. A tear escaped from her famously cold eyes, then another, falling onto the pristine marble floor and shattering. In my arms, Lily stirred. She was only 5. Seeing her mother cry, she didn't know what to do. She whispered in my ear, Daddy, Mommy's crying. I patted her back, but said nothing. Some mistakes can't be erased with a simple apology. Some wounds need to be remembered in a much deeper way. I looked down at the kneeling woman, my expression unmoved. Remember this humiliation, Victoria. You earned it. Without another glance, I turned, holding my daughter, and walked away. Hanson immediately fell into step, and the security team cleared a path. We left the scene of devastation, trailed by hundreds of shocked, awestruck, and terrified stares. Behind us, we could hear the sound of Victoria's finally breaking, a torrent of suppressed, agonized sobs. Back in the car, I took out a tissue and gently wiped Lily's eyes. She hadn't cried, but her own eyes were red. Daddy, does this mean we don't have a mommy anymore? She asked, her small voice full of anxiety. I pulled her into a tight hug. Lily, Daddy will always be with you. Daddy will give you twice as much love, okay? She nodded, not quite understanding, and rested her head on my chest. I stared out the window at the passing city, my mind calm and clear. The show was over. From the front seat, Hanson glanced at me in the rearview mirror. Sir, he asked cautiously, regarding Sterling Corporation, return the shares we acquired. Anonymously, I said flatly, let them live, but they won't escape punishment. Let them rebuild from the ashes. Consider it the last shred of dignity I'm leaving the Sterling family for Lily's sake. Yes, sir, Hanson replied, his voice full of respect. He knew this wasn't an act of mercy. It was an act of indifference. To his boss, crushing Sterling Corp was as easy as squashing an ant. The ant had now begged for its life, and he couldn't be bothered to waste any more energy on it. One more thing, I added. Take care of Kevin Peterson. I don't want to see his face in this city ever again. Understood. The car moved smoothly through traffic. I looked down at my daughter, who was drifting off to sleep in my arms, and only one thought remained. From this day forward, all I want is for my daughter to be safe, happy, and free from worry. And if anyone ever dares to harm her again, I will drag them down to hell myself. Chapter 7. The days that followed were deceptively quiet. Viridia City's business world, however, was in turmoil. Sterling Corporation, after suffering a near-fatal blow, miraculously received a massive, anonymous infusion of capital. The stock stabilized and began a slow climb, saving the company from total collapse. But the damage was done. The once great empire was now a second-rate player. It would take every ounce of Victoria's energy just to keep it afloat. As for the arrogant executive assistant, Kevin Peterson, he vanished. Some said he crossed the wrong people and ended up at the bottom of the river. Others whispered he took a payoff and fled the country. The rumors flew, but none of it mattered to me. My life returned to its familiar rhythm. Grocery shopping, cooking, and picking up my daughter from preschool. The only difference was that now, our house felt 1% emptier. Victoria never came back. She didn't sign the divorce papers, either. We existed in a strange limbo of separation. Occasionally, she would call, asking to speak to Lily. I always told her Lily was asleep. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I just believed that until she truly learned how to be a mother, she had no right to disturb our daughter's peace. One afternoon, I went to pick Lily up from preschool. I found her teacher, Ms. Miller, holding her hand at the gate, a worried look on her face. Chloe Miller was a young, kind-hearted woman fresh out of college, and Lily adored her. When she saw me, Chloe's face flooded with relief. "Mr. Cole, thank goodness you're here." "Lily, what's wrong? Is Lily okay?" My heart leaped into my throat. "Oh no, it's not that," Chloe said, waving her hands dismissively. "It's just, Lily got into a fight with another student today." "A fight?" I was stunned. My daughter was the gentlest soul I knew. I crouched down to look at her. She was hiding behind her teacher, staring at her shoes and twisting the hem of her shirt, refusing to look at me. "Lily, tell Daddy what happened," I said, keeping my voice as soft as I could. Chloe explained. A little boy in her class was teasing her. He told her she didn't have a mommy, that she was a throwaway kid. And Lily, she pushed him. My heart felt like it had been pierced by 100 tiny needles. I thought I had protected her from all of it, but the world's casual cruelty had found a way in. I gently pulled my daughter in front of me and lifted her chin. "Lily, look at me. Did you push him because he called you that name?" Tears welled in her eyes as she gave a firm nod. "You did the right thing," I said, my voice clear and steady. Both Lily and her teacher stared at me in shock. "Mr. Cole," Chloe began, looking uncomfortable. "I know the other boy was wrong, but violence is never the answer." "Ms. Miller," I interrupted, standing up to look her directly in the eye, my gaze more serious than she had ever seen it. "I'm teaching my daughter to be kind, not to be a doormat. If someone insults her, she will talk back. If someone hits her, she will hit back. The world isn't a fairy tale. I only care about one rule. My daughter will not be bullied. Not ever. As for the other child's parents, I will speak with them myself. I will take full responsibility." Chloe was left speechless by my unorthodox parenting philosophy. She looked at this ordinary-looking man and felt an unexpected sense of security, of an irresistible, protective strength. I paid her no more mind, took my daughter's hand, and turned to leave. "Daddy," Lily whispered. "Yes, sweetie. Can I push him again next time?" I couldn't help but smile, ruffling her hair. "Of course you can. But next time, use a little more force. Try to knock him down, so he runs home, crying to his mommy." Behind us, I heard Ms. Miller let out an involuntary snort of laughter. Chapter 8, I took Lily and went straight to the principal's office to meet the boy's parents. They were exactly what you'd expect. A wealthy-looking couple dripping in designer labels, with arrogant, dismissive eyes. The moment she saw me, the boy's mother launched herself at me like a missile. You're her father? Do you see what your daughter did to my son? Look at this bruise. I'm telling you, this is not over. My little angel is precious, and if he's traumatized, I'll make you pay for it." She jabbed a finger at my chest, her voice screeching. I didn't even flinch. My gaze drifted past her to the chubby little boy hiding behind her legs, a smug look on his face. "You're the one who said my daughter was a throwaway kid?" My voice was quiet, but it cut through her tirade. The boy's smirk faltered. He puffed out his chest and said, "So what if I did? She is. The teacher said her mom never, ever comes to pick her up." Crack. The sharp, clean sound of a slap echoed through the office. Everyone froze. The boy's mother stood there, one hand on her cheek, her eyes wide with disbelief. You hit me? Hit you?" I sneered, a dark smile playing on my lips. If my daughter wasn't in the room, I'd do a lot more than that. In that instant, my eyes turned black, bottomless pits of violence and rage. The woman shuddered, any further retort dying in her throat. Her husband, snapping out of his shock, roared and swung a fist at my head. "You son of a bitch." I sidestepped the clumsy punch with ease. Then I drove my foot into his knee. A sickening snap echoed in the room. The man let out a scream like a dying animal and collapsed, clutching his shattered leg. The office exploded into chaos. Chloe Miller, her face pale with terror, rushed over to grab my arm. "Mr. Cole, stop. Please, we can talk this out." I shook her off and walked over to the man, writhing on the floor. I planted my foot on his good leg, applying just enough pressure to make him gasp. "Control your wife, and control your son. If I ever hear another word against my daughter from either of them, I will personally ensure that all three of you disappear from this world. Without a trace." My voice was low, a demonic whisper that sent a chill through everyone present. The family's arrogance evaporated. The man on the floor could only groan, and the woman huddled with her son, trembling, not daring to even look at me. Satisfied, I stood up and straightened my shirt, my composure instantly returning as if nothing had happened. I turned to the terrified teacher and offered her a warm, disarming smile. "Sorry for the trouble, Ms. Miller. My lawyer will be in touch regarding any damages and follow-up." With that, I took the hand of my daughter, who was staring at me not with fear, but with shining, worshipful eyes, and walked out of the office. Behind me, there was only stunned silence. Long after we were gone, Chloe Miller finally caught her breath, her heart pounding as she watched my retreating back. Who was this man? One moment, a gentle spring breeze. The next, a demonic storm. He was a complete enigma, a dangerous mystery that, against all reason, you couldn't help but be drawn to. Chapter 9. Walking out of that preschool, I saw the look in my daughter's eyes and knew I'd done the right thing. In a child's world, it's simple. The strongest dad is the best dad. "Daddy, you're amazing," Lily exclaimed, her eyes sparkling like stars as she hugged my arm. "Of course I am," I said, tweaking her nose. "Daddy's a superhero. My only job is to protect Princess Lily." She giggled, a bright, happy sound. Seeing her smile, I felt my whole world light up. To wipe away any last traces of the day's unpleasantness, I decided to take her to Dreamscape Kingdom, Viridia City's most extravagant amusement park. Dreamscape Kingdom used to be an asset of Sterling Corporation. Not anymore. Now it was mine. I carried Lily straight through the VIP entrance. The park manager saw us and came jogging over, his attitude one of extreme deference. "Mr. Cole, welcome." The chairman left explicit instructions. "All expenses for you and the young miss are on the house today." I nodded, saying nothing. The chairman he was referring to was, of course, Hanson. I had handed over management of my more public-facing assets to him, content to remain the owner in name only. The manager personally escorted us, giving us instant access to all the most popular rides. Lily had the time of her life, her gleeful laughter echoing through the park. As evening approached, we sat together on the grand carousel, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. It was a perfect fairy tale moment. Lily snuggled into my arms. "Daddy," she whispered, "this was the best day ever." I kissed her forehead. "From now on, Daddy will make every day this happy for you." Just then, my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. I answered. The voice on the other end was one I never expected to hear again. It was Victoria. She sounded exhausted and humbled. "Ethan, can I see Lily? Please? Just for a little while?" I frowned. "She's busy right now." I know I was wrong. Her voice cracked, and I could hear she was crying. "I've done a lot of thinking this past month. I was a terrible mother. Please, just give me one chance to make it up to her. I'm begging you." I was silent for a moment. To be honest, I never wanted to completely sever the bond between them. Blood is blood, after all. I just needed Victoria to truly, fundamentally understand the gravity of her mistake. "We're at Dreamscape Kingdom," I finally said. The relief in her voice was palpable. "I'm on my way. I'll be right there." After hanging up, I looked down at my daughter, a mix of emotions swirling inside me. "I hope you've really learned your lesson this time, Victoria." Chapter 10. Half an hour later, Victoria arrived, looking flustered and out of breath. She must have run from the parking lot, as her usually perfect hair was a mess and there was a sheen of sweat on her forehead. In her arms, she carried several large, expensive-looking shopping bags filled with toys and snacks from all of Lily's favorite brands. The moment she saw Lily, her eyes turned red. "Lily," she called out tentatively. Lily saw her and instinctively shrank back into my arms. A flash of pain crossed Victoria's face. She stopped in her tracks, afraid to come any closer, looking as fragile as a porcelain doll. I felt Lily tense up. I bent down and whispered in her ear, "It's okay, Daddy's right here." Those simple words seemed to give Victoria the courage she needed. She took a deep breath, gently set the heavy bags on the ground, and slowly knelt so she was at eye level with Lily on the carousel horse. "Lily," she began, her voice hoarse and pleading. Mommy bought you that limited edition Queen Elsa's ice palace you wanted. Do you like it?" She pulled a massive, beautifully decorated box from one of the bags. Lily's eyes lit up instantly. It was the toy she'd been begging me for months. one I'd never quite brought myself to buy. A child's love for a coveted toy is a powerful thing, but she still glanced at me, her eyes asking for permission. I gave her a small, encouraging smile and a nod. Only then did Lily carefully lean forward, reaching out her small hands to accept the heavy gift. "Thank you, Mommy," she mumbled, her voice as quiet as a mouse, and full of a new shyness. Those 2 words were all it took. Victoria's composure shattered. She covered her mouth, her shoulders shaking violently as she tried to stifle a sob, not wanting to scare her daughter. I lifted Lily off the carousel and walked over to her. Looking at this broken, tear-streaked woman, I felt no satisfaction, only a cold emptiness. "You think this is enough, Victoria?" I asked coolly. "The things money can buy are the cheapest form of apology." She looked up at me, her eyes swimming with tears, and shook her head frantically. I know it's not enough. Tell me what else I have to do. I'll do anything to earn her forgiveness." She had lowered herself completely, her pride gone. I looked her straight in the eye and said, enunciating every word, "Starting tomorrow, you will personally take Lily to school and pick her up." Victoria froze, clearly not expecting this. "No assistants, no drivers," I added, pressing my advantage. "You will be at that preschool gate on time, every single day, rain or shine." Can you do that? For the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation, it was a near impossible task. It meant she would have to reschedule her entire life, cancel countless meetings, and skip important networking events. It meant putting her daughter first. Victoria looked at Lily, who was hugging the giant toy box, a conflicted expression of happiness and distance on her face. Her own expression hardened, shifting from hesitation to unwavering resolve. She wiped her tears away with the back of her hand, stood up, and made a solemn vow, as much to herself as to me. "I can." Chapter 11 the next afternoon at 4 o'clock, at the preschool pickup line, a flashy pink Lamborghini stood out like a sore thumb amongst the minivans and sensible sedans. Victoria, dressed in a sharp business suit and 4-inch heels, stood awkwardly by her car, drawing stares from every other parent. She was clearly out of her element, a faint scowl on her face, and her entire posture screaming, "Do not approach me." When the school doors opened and a flood of children poured out, she looked even more lost. Lily spotted her immediately, paused for a second, then instinctively started running towards me. I had deliberately arrived a minute late and was watching from a short distance away. A flicker of disappointment crossed Victoria's face as she saw our daughter run to me, but she quickly hurried over. "Lily," she said, crouching down, her voice a little strained as she tried to sound gentle. "Mommy's here to pick you up." Lily hid behind my leg, peeking out at her. The other parents started whispering, "Isn't that Lily Cole's dad? Who's the woman with him? She's gorgeous, looks like a movie star." "You don't know? That's her mom, Victoria Sterling, the CEO. I heard they were having problems. Looks like she's trying to win them back." "Wow." Picking up your kid in a lumbo, Victoria heard every word, and a flush of red crept up her neck. She had never imagined she would one day become the subject of playground gossip. I made no move to help her, simply watching her with a neutral expression. This was the first test. She took a deep breath, visibly steeling herself. Ignoring the stares, she focused completely on Lily and pulled a small thermos from her expensive handbag. "You must be thirsty from playing, sweetie. Mommy brought you some of your favorite strawberry milk. It's still warm." She unscrewed the lid, and a sweet aroma filled the air. Lily's little nose twitched. She was clearly tempted. I gave her an encouraging nudge from behind. After a moment's hesitation, she stepped forward and took the thermos. A genuine, radiant smile finally broke through Victoria's tense expression. On the way home, Victoria's Lamborghini crawled along at 10 miles per hour, stuck behind my electric bike. Her custom-ordered child safety seat hadn't arrived yet, and there was no way I was letting Lily ride in that car without one. I glanced in my side mirror at the once untouchable queen of industry, now looking utterly exasperated as a line of angry drivers honked their horns behind her. A small smile played on my lips. "Your penance, Victoria, has only just begun."